Hi everybody. Oh gosh, okay, I'm getting adjusted to my phone camera here instead of my tablet. So my inclination is to look here in the middle of the phone, which is more like trying to look at myself, but actually I need to be looking here and not be so dang selfish. So I'm gonna try to keep my focus right there so you guys can tell I'm looking at you. Anyway, so as we build people to come on, hi guys, everyone who's showing up. I can't see who's on yet. But I wanted to talk about my highs and lows of being an entrepreneur. So basically, I got off work last October. It was a layoff opportunity that I took, and honestly, I was super excited because I was done. I was so done with that job. Good afternoon, Hannah. Hey, how are you? And I don't know about you guys, but as a woman, especially, I felt super done and exhausted. I was like a roasted duck. Hey, Kelly. So Kelly, this video is in response to your question that you posted the other day. I know I asked it Monday. I'm doing it a little bit late, but I wanted to give it some thought before I put out the video. And I was completely roasted and done. I am by nature an action taker and doer, as most of my friends are, and probably the ones who are watching this. And we always are running around and doing things, and this life requires us over here in the United States. It requires us double income. We got to do this, got to do that. You've got to take care of the home, your cooking, your health, your social life, your family life. Maybe you have kids, you have partners, so your relationships. I mean, the list is like endless, right? And so I remember when I was at my job, I wasn't loving it to begin with. And hey, Brent. And I wasn't loving it to begin with. And so when I got laid off, at that time I had a severance package, which was awesome. And I decided, okay, I'm going to go and do this like entrepreneurship thing. And, there's a lot of benefits that come out of this. And I will talk about the benefits afterwards. But there's also a huge downside to all of this, okay? Everybody talks about how awesome entrepreneurship is. You get to do whatever you want, whenever you want. You get to do your business. You get to call the shots and no more answering to anybody or having to be available for anybody and commuting and et cetera, right? And I want you to know that there are some real hardcore realities of entrepreneurship and not working for somebody else. And that is that there are some real moments of financial, let's call it financial scarcity, right? Like if you don't have the runway package from your last job, if you don't have savings and you're venturing out into something new, a new business adventure, right? You should already have something developed. And if you don't, it's going to be an even longer process. Like most of us completely underestimate, including myself, completely underestimate the amount of work and learning we have to do and overestimate the returns in the length of time. So I actually gave myself 6 months to be able to pull in a certain dollar amount for something that I was working on. I'm working on e-commerce and affiliate marketing. And I will be the first to tell you, man, not only was I completely overestimating, but also things happen. You get into, or at least I did, you get into lazy phases. You get into weeks, sometimes months, where you're just like, I don't want to do anything because you're coming off of years. And in my case, and probably in yours, decades of working. I've been working since I was 15. So by the time I got laid off, I was 32 and a half. So I've been working for a really long time and I was super exhausted. I got sick 2 or 3 times. And that knocked me out for 2-3 weeks. Your motivation takes plunges constantly, right? I'm used to winning. I'm used to doing really good. And nobody wants to fail. Everybody wants to win. I want to win. So every time I would fail or not know what I'm doing, despite the fact that I have an incredible support system between my mentors, my business leaders, my coaches, I wanted to do everything on my own. And, you would think 33, like I have learned some things by now, like take the help, use the help, have your schedule set for the day, et cetera, which by the way is another huge thing. I didn't. I really let a lot of things slide, as well as a lot of circumstances were happening. And I didn't make that. I'm at the 5.5 month mark, which I'm shocked how fast the time flies. And I didn't make my goals. And so then there comes a very big reality of like, shiz, I gotta go back to work. I gotta find a job. Oh my God, I don't want to go back to that dreaded thing. And it's not that bad. It's not a bad thing, right? What I'm coming to learn is that there are expectations that we need to understand before we get into this entrepreneurial mindset. One big thing that I would say is severely lacking for most people into this world of like entrepreneurship is to hammer the fact home. You need to have a very clear objective. You need to understand very clearly what you're getting into, how long it's going to take, consult as many people as you can. And the best thing for you to do in entrepreneurship is to have a partnership. Leverage someone else's expertise or business or their skills or their talent set. If and when we go into it alone and we don't have the market, hi Abby, if we don't have the market, we don't have the credibility yet, or we're doing something on our own, it's going to take a lot longer. It's going to be a different learning curve. It's not always a bad thing, but there are skill sets and personality sets you have to develop. You have to be someone who is able to stick to a schedule, even create a schedule for yourself, knowing that to be a successful entrepreneur, you have to put things in priority. You have to be able to outsource things. You have to be able to know how to run your life to get that business to where you want it to go. Now, that's not to say that people don't achieve and accomplish that, but a lot of people, most entrepreneurs don't succeed because they did not take the time to sit down and actually lay everything out so that it was going to work out the way you thought it was, and to have that determination and motivation and to do whatever the hell it takes for you personally to get to that point. Now, having said all of that, I will say that the benefits I did get out of not working for the last 5.5 months in a classic 9-to-5 far, far outweigh everything that I've been through. So let me lay it out for you, okay? One of my goals when I got laid off was, okay, I need to really fix my health, all right? And when you're not working, there's a whole, like, I would say like high percentage, like 80% of your like time and energy that gets freed up because you're not involved in politics at work or being available to someone, traveling, commuting, doing projects at work, etc., etc. So I was able to very quickly get to the bottom of what was going on with my health. That's how I figured out, oh my goodness, I have a thyroid issue, and I was able to aggressively target with my doctor. And in many cases, I was actually training him to treat my thyroid symptoms. And when he didn't understand how to treat my thyroid, I actually had to go to my herbalist, who I discovered later on, and fix my health. And then I went in and got Kangen, and that took my health to another level, and has and continues to. And not only that, but in that time, I started understanding some of the reasons why I failed in certain things in the past. So in many ways, I understand that, like, I've been divorced twice, right? Like, I understand that there are a lot of good things that came out of it. I've learned a lot, but in many ways, I too see it as a failure. I do. There are moments that, like, I'm human. I'm just like anybody else. And I look back and I think, man, like, why didn't I make smarter decisions about this thing? Why didn't I know better? Why didn't I do better? And how could this happen to me? And so now I, look back and think there's a dichotomy, right? I'm sure that you in the past have had something great that came out of a huge failure, but so oftentimes as human, we look at those things like just from a failure standpoint. So now that I was able to understand a few things, I was able to go back and understand, okay, how do I build some relationships? How do I make something better? Like I was really focused on my mom and my dad. That's a very beautiful thing to say, Abby. Scars are always beautiful. They are. It's like like that upper left corner of your heart. These things always stay with you, and they're bittersweet. And over time, they become just sweet memories. And that's the honest truth, at least from my perspective. But my focus was my mom, my dad, my siblings, my relationships with them. What's going on? How can I start to, how can I start to have a better relationship with them? So I started watching, I started speaking their language, which is more of the religious language, right? And I noticed that a lot of people in my family just calmed down. Their anxiety towards me or with me, their unrest or unease when they would speak to me, everything just calmed down when I started to speak more of their religious language. And that's been awesome. And then I started going towards my cousins and understanding like, okay, this is not just about like, there's 30 of us cousins on just my mom's side, by the way, and we're like siblings, right? So I started to realize that this is not just about me having good relationships with my cousins, but it was about the family, the whole family as a whole. And I'm one of the eldest. I'm the second eldest from my brother. So I said, what can I do to step up into my family and really make this like a thing? Like, people should look at my family or my cousins and say, and make examples out of us and say, that's a family that we should be mimicking or copying how they do things. So what do I need to do for that? I'm looking at my cousins, they're in their early 20s, and I'm thinking to myself, and I'm sure, you have situations too, things that you've gone through and wish that you had known when you were younger, or that you can impart to your children or other young adults. And I'm looking at the same and thinking, okay, in 10 years, these kids are going to be like desperately needing us because they're going to go through really rough life situations. So do I want them to struggle on their own with no one? Do I want them to try to figure it out on their own? Or maybe they might stumble across some mentor here and there, because these kids are not into personal development, right? At least right now they're not. So what do I want for them? I want for them to have a relationship built with me and us within each other now, so that in the future, when shit goes down, they know who to look at. They know who's looking out for them. They know that there are people in the family who's got their back, who's supportive. So I have fixed my thyroid issues since I got laid off. I have dropped 10 pounds and I have more to go. I have become more intense in my workouts, more committed to eating vegan and healthier food, right? I have greatly increased and enhanced and improved my relationships across the board with everybody. And I would say that my home life is improving too, because I'm starting to improve my personal space, which I never previously gave the time to, or I thought I didn't have the time to give with everything else going on. So I don't know about you guys, but at the end of the day, I understand that money is not the only valuing factor in what you're defining as success. So success is not money, or just things. Success is doing what you want, when you want, with who you want, where you want, as much as you want. That is success. So success for you is living in a tiny home, wherever you want, with your kids, and not having some big mansion or some big multi-million-dollar business. That is totally incredible. That is awesome. I don't want to associate, well, in the past we've associated entrepreneurship and success with just multi-millions. Create your multi-millions quickly. Well, guess what? Those multi-millions, while people are creating those, they're dying, they're killing their body and their sleep and their health to get there. So at the end, then you spend those multi-millions trying to fix your health back, right? So hey Middi, thank you for joining. This is like your first go live with me. We're talking about entrepreneurships and all the awesomeness that is coming out. So, I'm going to, speaking of Midda, her brother's getting married this August in my home country. So I'm flying out to my home country for 3 weeks. Could I have done that with my regular job? Yeah, if I skipped every other vacation throughout the year. So that is an absolute advantage. I am going to a training conference in May, and I'm going to, hi Claudia, thank you for joining. I'm actually going to HIT in May, Claudia. Claudia knows because she's from my incredible Michael Bernoff community. And I'm going to New Zealand and Singapore. I'm going to see a Tony Robbins event at the end of the year. These are just my great loves of my life. I'm able to go see my cousin and be at her engagement also in May. And it is my greatest joy to say that I value and prioritize my family to go and be present right? At these important events, I want these kids to know, I want my babies to know that I am there for them, that as much as they have been there for me, honestly, right? I've got a decade on them. They've all been there for me more than, and all of these things are great. However, you have to understand that the bottom line is you cannot have everything at the same time in your life, okay? It just doesn't work that way. You choose what you prioritize, what's most important to you. So in one way, you can have everything, just not at the same time. No matter the greatest people you look at, whether it's Oprah, Richard Branson, Tony Robbins, Bill Gates, whomever you want to choose, the best of the best, even Warren Buffett's, none of them have everything at the same time. Tony has to give up a lot of his time to his work, so he's almost never home. He's traveling over 300 days out of the year. So he's never in his beautiful Florida home except rare occasions. Now his wife travels with him, so it's fine in one way. And he's figured it out. It's his passion. Same thing with Richard Branson. He's got things that he's giving up in order to do what he does. There's a price that you pay for everything. And sometimes you don't mind paying that price, right? Like I used to think that I wanted multi-millions and successful business and this and that. And then I realized like, hey, look, if I want a family and I want a guy in my life, I want a relationship and I want certain things, I want a certain lifestyle, I personally, from my personal life, cannot also go after multi-millions and success in a business and whatever. So I have had to adjust my expectations of what success means for me, how I'm going to value the failures of entrepreneurship, what am I going to see as a success in my entrepreneurship, how long do I intend to take this, and what am I going to do about my real goals in life? Because guess what? At the end of the day, and I'm sure you don't either, I don't want to die with just a business and multi-millions. I don't want to, and I'm alone. I don't want to die alone and with no family or nothing that I have built that really means something. And I'm sure that many of you, as you're hearing my voice and you're looking at this video, you're probably on your phone, maybe even you're out somewhere, you're beginning to realize too that you have things in your life that you value more than things that can be bought. And you need to understand, like, how are you going to prioritize that so that you have that in your life and you don't lose sight of that over something else that isn't truly meaningful, at least not in the long run anyway, right? So my invitation to you is to just look back at what it is that you want and which out of all of these things, what really matters. So work backwards and say, if having my family adjusted and well and healthy matters the most, how do I work backwards to have that? Success, at least financially, should not be the first thing that comes. It should be the end goal in mind, working backwards of, okay, this is what I need to do to make it happen. And somewhere along the way, you'll be like the rocket ship that as it launches, it adjusts and tweaks a couple angles just to get to its point. You will never get there in a straight line the way you think you will, and sometimes you get there in better pathways than you thought, you imagined you might, as certainly I did. And it's an experiential journey. It's an amazing journey. But I do think that we all could look back at where we are really wanting to go first, and then look back at how we're going to get there. So that's my invitation to you. Thank you for watching this video. If you know anyone who wants to be an entrepreneur, who is an entrepreneur, tag them in here, share this video if you think it would be helpful to anyone. Thank you for joining, and have a happy week.